Leah Henry here, and I just blossom with the future. It's pretty.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of The Future is Pretty, where knowledge is power and we help girls wear the crown. I am your host, Zara Love, and today is our very first episode. So I would like to welcome Leah Henry.
Hey,
So how you doing, girl?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing amazing. So, you don't have to have you the first person on the show. I wanted you to be the first guest because you are
Oh,
doing your thing. You just got nominated for different things, and I know you. So I'm just like, let me have my girl break the ice. So, you ready?
girl, I'm ready. Let's go.
Okay. So, first, introduce yourself and what you do.
Well, my name is Leah Henry. I am an on-air personality and multimedia producer. So I work at Power 107.5, 106.3, doing middays from 10 to 3 p.m.
Hey, okay. And you are a 2016 graduate of Howard University, which is a very prestigious HBCU. So I just want to know what inspired you to go to Howard?
So, I mean, genuinely, what made me want to go to Howard was I grew up in Texas. I grew up in a suburban area outside of Austin,
Mhm.
Texas. And I felt like growing up, I didn't have a lot of representation of like a lot of Black excellence. I had never been somewhere where everybody wanted to do well. There were some people who did well, and then there were some people who didn't. But I felt like as a Black person, I never got the opportunity to be in a centralized space of Black excellence. And so
Mhm.
I was actually heavily influenced by one of my friend's older cousins at the time who was attending Howard. And he talked about Howard in great lengths. And he talked about, just all the alum and all the things that comes with the prestige of Howard. And so, I started
Right.
looking into it and my mind was set. Like after my sophomore year, I didn't want to go anywhere else but Howard. So that is
Mhm.
kind of what created the idea of like, okay, I'm gonna go to HBCU. I'm gonna go to Howard specifically. And yeah, the rest was history.
I love it. So you are a comms girly. And how did you know that the field of communications was something that you wanted to pursue?
So I think as a child, I always wanted to be in entertainment. I know that like when
Mhm.
I was younger, I used to beg my mom to let me audition for all that. They have this casting call nationwide where you could, submit a video and be on all that, right? And so I used to watch the Disneys, the Nickelodeons, and I knew that like I wanted to do something like that. When I was a child, I wanted to be more
Mhm.
of a singer. Um,
Mhm.
and then as I just grew up, I knew like there was a longing for me to just want to be in entertainment, like I kind of blame my mom when I was a kid. We used to watch award shows and she would know who no one was. So it was kind of like
Mhm.
an introduction to me kind of knowing all these things about all these celebrities, right? So my mom would be like,
Mhm.
Leah, who is that? I'd be like, Mom, that's Britney Spears. She sings, you know
Oh,
what I mean? It started this
yeah.
knowledge and growth of knowing who people were in entertainment aside from actually wanting to be in the industry myself. And so that
Mhm.
is kind of, I think I just always knew that entertainment was going to be my thing at some point.
Okay. So you kind of just off rip, you knew what the other question was going to be because the next question was, let's go back down memory lane to young Leah. And I said a lot of times people struggle with choosing a major because there's so many to choose from, not knowing that a lot of time our purpose is connected to things that we are naturals at doing and love doing. So I was going to ask you what were some personality traits or things that you've done during childhood that made you perfect for the communications field.
So I don't know. I feel like since I was a child, like I had this knack for talking. Like that was one of the things on every report card I ever had. It was like Leah
Mhm.
calls out, Leah's talkative, Leah's always with her
Mhm.
friends. And I think that I was naturally funny as a child. I also think that's
Mhm.
partially trauma from being a plus size woman, but that's a whole other conversation. But I do feel like, I gained humor and I was very social as a child. And so that peers into, I think, my personality as an adult. I think that, my mom was really big when she was a kid. Like she would not tell me things. I don't know why she wouldn't, but I would like ask a question
Mhm.
and she would tell me to go look it up. Like I would be like, hey, how do you spell
Mhm.
this? And she'd be like, get a dictionary and look it up. Like, and I used to be very, very frustrated by that. But that
Mhm.
type of, I guess, parenting kind of created
Mhm.
the idea that like I have to go looking for the answers that I want to find, right? And so I think that
Mhm.
even with the way that my interview style is, you can probably
Mhm.
see notes of that in that because I tend to dig a lot deeper than just surface level research. And so I
Mhm.
think those things were built in my childhood as well. So a lot of culmination of different things kind of made me who I am as a talent and as a personality and in my, job day to day. So yeah, for sure. A lot of childhood signs that this was going to be what exactly I'm doing.
Perfect. And you work in radio, which is a very hard industry to enter. What advice would you give on how to get in the room and work it?
I mean, get in the room, right? And I think that, when people tell you that all the time, it's like, get your foot in the door. But no, I mean,
Mhm.
genuinely, I think that the art of hustle has been lost on a
Mm.
lot of us. You know what I mean? There was a lot of rooms that I sat in that I didn't make a dime to sit in, but I was there contributing because I knew that my contributions would later connect me to where I'm at. And I think that,
Mm.
in the era of social media and everybody wanting to be popping and everybody feeling like they can just pull out a phone and be that
Mhm.
girl or that guy, I think that it shouldn't be lost upon people that you have to work really hard in whatever
Mhm.
direction you're going to go through in communications, whether you are, famous for, your cooking videos or your
Yeah.
TikTok dances or, being a radio personality. There's just going to be
Mhm.
effort that has to be put in place no matter what it is. And I think
Yes.
that we've lost a lot of hustle in our generation
Mhm.
because, again, I worked a full time job and was working
Mhm.
at a radio station for free, helping them before I went into my full time job. You know what I mean? There's people who
Mm.
wouldn't even do that now because, people just don't feel like they have to do that. But I still
Yeah.
encourage that because I think a lot of the rooms I've been able to put myself in have been through hustle and through opportunities that might not have looked like the opportunity that I thought I wanted, but put me in the
Mhm.
room.
Okay, hustle and opportunity. I love that. So one of our brand promises is to be transparent. So I have to ask, what is one con and what is one pro about being a communications major?
I think the biggest con for me is the pay. I think that, I tell people
Mm.
all the time that either you're a very poor media personality or the
Mhm.
complete opposite. There's typically no gray areas. You
Mm.
really have to hustle a lot to try to maintain just like a livable wage. And I think, our country is getting to a space where it's about to become real in the next 10 years for all media people, whether that's television news, whether that's
Yeah.
radio, because you
Mhm.
know, inflation is so high right now. There's no way that they can keep paying people pennies, but these companies are
Mhm.
going to try to do so. And so it is going to be a really interesting journey. But I tell people all the time, like, if you don't love this, your heart will come out quickly because nobody's going to do anything they don't love for the little
Mhm.
money that most people in media make. Um,
Yeah.
I think the pro is as well on the counter
Mhm.
side to that is it does give you opportunities to do a lot of other things, right? And so
Mhm.
I think the pro for me is you get to connect with people in a way that you might not connect with if you were a said not media person. So I get
Mhm.
to hear people's stories. I get to connect with people. I've created a brand for like plus size women and traveling. And I think that,
Mhm.
areas of my life that I felt underserved, I get to serve
Mhm.
people. So I think that's a
Yes.
beautiful experience from this.
Mhm.
So I think that's my pro and my con.
Okay. So if you work in the communication industry, basically it's like at least have you another hustle coming in that you can bring in some money.
I mean, yeah, and you know what? Listen, nowadays there are people who literally make a TikTok and are on red carpets and getting paid well. You know what I mean? Like everybody's journey is not synonymous. Like everybody doesn't experience media in the same way. Like
Mhm.
I got my first job out of college at a
Mhm.
Washington D.C. news station. Most people work their whole careers to get to D.C. So
Mm.
for me, like I understand that everybody's journey is different. There are people who will look at my career and say, well, how did this girl land in this type
Mhm.
of role? And
Mhm.
she had no experience, and I've worked 30 years to be in DC. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
everybody's experience is different. I don't tell anybody like your direction is going to be mine. I have friends that have never had a traditional soul media job. They've hustled and had different opportunities, and that's how they paid their bills. I have friends,
Yeah.
and I'm a person who, like, I always have to have a 9 to 5 because I need security. So,
Yeah.
again, it's not synonymous to one person. Everybody's journey can be different for sure.
Okay. So this next question is a two-part question. So the first one is in the Future is Pretty book, chapter 14 is titled Know Your Worth, Value, and Then Add Tax. With research showing that radio is a male-dominated industry, for young women who want to enter it, how can they gain confidence, know their worth, and advocate for themselves?
Hmm. I think it's simply that. Unfortunately, I think that media is definitely a pay your dues type of industry. And
Mhm,
so a lot of times when you're coming into this industry, your worth is
mhm,
compromised, right? Like, I
mhm,
can say in the early stages of my career, had it not been for specific people who saw
mhm,
my value and fought for
mhm,
my value, I'm not sure that I
mhm,
would have been confident enough to do so myself. So having people around you that see your gifts and want to nurture your
mhm,
gifts is super important in this industry. And I think even when it gets discouraging, having those people to remind you are important. I think advocating for yourself, we are getting to a time now, at least in media, where people are
mhm,
being heard more. I think I've seen an evolution in my almost decade career,
mhm,
where women are starting to be heard a little bit more. It's not
mhm,
perfect, but it's come a long way compared to people who I'm standing on the shoulders of, who lost jobs and walked out of situations because they were compromising and didn't have outlets or help. So I do think that it is becoming easier for women to um, come forward and share their experiences, and stand up for themselves. But I just would say you need to find your people who are going to advocate for you, who are going to remind
mhm,
you of your worth, and then also support you. Having allies and people who are going to be able to speak on your behalf is super, super important. You cannot do any journey by yourself. And people are sadly mistaken when we have this ideology that I'm bad by myself, I can do this by myself, I built myself,
mhm,
because it really takes a
mhm.
village in every aspect to be successful. So,
Yes. Okay, I love that. And then the second part of that question is how can one be set apart?
mm. I think that goes back to the hustle conversation. I think that,
Mhm.
again, hustle, the dream is one thing, and the hustle is sold separately. Like, you genuinely
Mhm.
have to be a person who's willing to give it your all, and to do that at a level that makes you stand out. I think that,
Mhm.
again, what's the quote? It's like, opportunity, uh, you fail to be successful if you plan to fail, like something along the lines of, like, listen, you can be
Mhm.
outworked by a
Yeah.
person who might not be as
Mhm.
talented as you, but is doing the work. And so I
Yeah.
think that,
Mhm.
genuinely, when it comes to trying to hone a craft or trying to get better at something, you always have to be putting in time to figure out how you're going to grow, how you're going to make these connections, what you're willing to do to stand out. Like, for example,
Mhm.
my first news job in DC, like I said, is kind of an anomaly for someone to graduate college and get a DC news job. And one of
Mhm.
the things that I did for the show that I was applying for was I sat down every single day that week and I made a proposal about what on the show I would change, or what stories they missed, or what things that I would have done differently, or what I would have,
Mhm.
what I would have had the talent say. Like, I had a
Mhm.
whole proposal on how I would do said things. And
Mhm.
I don't think anybody, whether they have more experience than me or not, had put that type of effort in. And I think it was noted. And I think that was
Mm.
genuinely why I stood out in that
Yes.
journey, because I went the extra mile. I knew I didn't have the
Mhm.
experience, and I knew that I didn't really know what the hell I was doing. But I said, you
Mhm.
know what? I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna be more prepared than anybody who's applying for this job.
Okay, I love that. So the next question is many women of color face imposter syndrome, which oftentimes convinces us that we're not worthy of spaces, even though we definitely are and we're called into the room. So how can they overcome that and take up space?
I don't know. I personally, like, genuinely believe that, like, any situation that we're in, God put us there. I
Amen.
wholeheartedly believe that, like, I never try to get upset about what I see other people doing, because I'm like, yo,
Mm-hmm.
if that's for them, then what God
Mm-hmm.
has for me is for me. And so,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think that it's easy, especially Black women in spaces that we don't necessarily aren't always in. Like when I started that
Mm-hmm.
job I was formerly talking about, I felt imposter syndrome because I was like, I genuinely shouldn't be here. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there are people who are way more qualified to do this job, but my friend had
Mm-hmm.
to tell me God doesn't call the qualified; He
He
qualifies the call.
qualifies the call.
And
Go,
so I
friend.
was like, okay, you know what I mean? That made me, kind of sharpen my mind up. And, it was anxious. It was a little anxious for the first couple of months, because I was just like, I don't know if I'm tiptoeing on a job. I don't know if I won't have this job. There was a lot of things that I was like questioning in that space, but I learned. And,
Yeah.
I grew a network, and that was
Mm-hmm.
really the foundation of my career. And so, um,
Mm-hmm.
when you're in a space of questioning why you're there, I think you should simply be like, I'm here because I'm supposed to be. And that's just it.
Mm-hmm. Amen. I love it. So you are originally from Austin, Texas, moved to Washington, D.C., and you now reside in Columbus, Ohio.
Mhm.
In the Future's Pretty book, chapter 16 is titled Growing Pains and How to Cope, which talks about missing life back at home, feeling lonely, going through inevitable changes, and more. So, based on your experiences, what is some encouragement that you can give to someone who may be going through the same things?
I think the biggest challenge of that has been coming to Columbus from DC. I was in DC for almost a
Mm-hmm.
decade. It would have been 10 years last August that I had lived in DC, and that was home for me. I had grew up there. I had become a woman there. I had learned
Mm-hmm.
about who I genuinely was. I started my career there, and then I grew my career there. And so
Mm-hmm.
leaving DC to come to Columbus was a very big leap of faith for me. It had been really hard for me to adjust. I think I'm still in an adjusting period, trying to figure out like what that looks like when you're trying to grow a brand in a brand new place where people don't know who
Mm-hmm.
you are. In DC, I can make a phone
Mm-hmm.
call and get something done in 2 seconds. Here, I have to really sit down and figure out how I'm going to navigate new spaces. And then also, no one talks about how hard it is in your 30s to make new friends. And so I think that I'm kind of experiencing that in this season of my life. And I think one thing I've learned in this season is you have to really know how to have a balance of whatever you're pursuing and then what your
Mm-hmm.
actual hobbies are. What do you actually enjoy doing?
Mm-hmm.
Because when I lived in DC, I don't think I had a great work life balance, but I was happy
Yeah.
because I was chasing my dreams, and then I did have friends, and then I did have
Yeah.
fun stuff to do. In
Mm-hmm.
Columbus, I have had to transition because Columbus is not as big of a city. So there's not
Mm-hmm.
as much to do as what I was
Mm-hmm.
used to in DC. Obviously, I don't know as many people. So even when there are things to do, I'm like, who do I call? What do I do? And so
Mm-hmm.
I've had to learn in this last year of my life, like, what genuinely makes me happy? What are the things other
Mm-hmm.
than this job, or
Mm-hmm.
that is only a small percentage of my day, if we're being honest. what
Mm-hmm.
what is truly something that makes me happy? And so I've been on a self-discovery journey myself of like, how do I make my time here in Columbus be an experience that I love, even though it's not what
Yeah.
I'm used to. And so it's a journey, but I would suggest to anybody, you really got to find the things that make you happy and the things that you love, so that you can focus and pour into those areas when you're not working or when you're not striving for these dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's just, there's just things that we have to find that we love. And I think sometimes Black women specifically struggle with that. We're so used to
Yeah.
always occupying ourselves, and we don't know what downtime really
Mm-hmm.
looks like. That's why they always joke that when a Black woman is bored, she's gonna go get another degree. But I think that comes from the idea that
Yeah.
genuinely
You have
we
to
don't
always
know
be
what.
doing something.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
yeah, finding what you genuinely enjoy without the pressures of anything else.
Okay, I love that. So, what is one thing throughout your whole journey that you're most proud of?
That's the other thing about Black women, always looking ahead and never looking back. Um, I think one of the things that I was most proud of is
Mhm.
being like featured in TMZ. I think that TMZ is like,
Oh,
you know,
yes.
an immaculate, like top notch brand for entertainment. And,
Mm-hmm.
my interviews being in it, my name being on
Mm-hmm.
it, and doing that without help was important to
Mm-hmm.
me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that was kind of one of those moments where I was like, oh my God, like, you know, this thing is really working out for you. You know what I mean? Um,
Amen. Yes.
like one of my cousins had called me and said he was, getting ready for work. And I guess a rerun episode of TMZ was on. He was like, I look up and I see your face and I just call your mom. And I'm like, well, why is Leah on TV? You know what I mean? I think that when my
Oh.
story started to hit those types of outlets, that was
Mm-hmm.
confirmation for me like, okay, Leah, you hung in here for the right reason.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, congratulations on that. That is huge. I love that for you. Yes, ma'am. So that's the last question of like the actual interview. But now it's time to have some fun.
Okay,
So, you ready to have some fun?
let's do it.
So, welcome to the Teacup, where we play games, we exchange tasty tea, and we have a great time. So, today's session is called Spill Your Tea, and you only have 30 seconds to answer each question. So, are
Okay.
you ready?
All right, I think so.
All right. So, why did you decide to go to a HBCU instead of a PWI?
Because I wanted to be a part of Black excellence,
Period.
on all levels.
Yes. At HBCUs, every day is like a fashion show. So did you take part in the slaying or like the betraying because it's drip or drown?
Listen, I'm not gonna lie, I was betraying most of the days because I will put on a good Howard t-shirt and some leggings. See, that's a life hack, HBCU grads. That's a life hack, okay?
Girl.
If you're wearing a school shirt, it doesn't matter what the bottoms look like. You can really be a little bummed out as long as you're wearing the school merch. So I just had a Howard shirt for every day. I
Mhm.
would be bummy. I'm genuinely not a girly girl. So but when it's time to step, honey, one thing about it, I'm a Howard woman, so it's time to step. Okay.
Period. So during freshman orientation, many incoming freshmen start a group chat on GroupMe. If you were a part of it, did any of the friendships last outside the group chat?
You know what? So most people don't know this about me, or I guess I say it all the time, but people don't know this about
Hmm.
me. So I did not get into Howard my first year. I actually went to a school in Connecticut first, and then I transferred
Hmm.
to Howard. So at Howard, it's a really big thing to like start communication. We all start like when you go to Howard and you talk to somebody, you say, I'm HU16, which is, the year you're graduating, right? So when
Hmm.
it's time to apply to Howard, they start this, these tweets and these group chats where it's like HU16. So everybody's like
Hmm.
anticipating, them getting into the school. So everyone's talking. And
Hmm.
so, I was very vocal because I really thought I was going to Howard, right? So I knew all the people in the group chats. I was that girl. I was talkative, made friends, started connecting with people on
All
social
that.
media, and then boom, didn't get into Howard. And I was like, oh, that's super awkward because yeah, I've made all these friends, but I didn't get in. So I got very silent. I still followed a lot of them on social media. And then obviously when I came, I did meet some of them. But it's funny because I always think about that. Like I always thought, like I would see the notifications and I was like, should I just exit the group chat? I don't know. But anyway, long story short, I'm sure there's people in that group chat that, I still have some type of connection with, but yeah, it was so long ago at this point. I don't know who's who, but not anybody distinctly because, like I said, I got very quiet in the group chat.
It's okay, because guess what? You
That
sent
degree say
it.
Howard.
It say Howard. You know what I'm talking about? Listen. So the next question is, so we know the saying broke college kids did not come from anywhere. If you don't mind sharing, what was your brokest moment in college?
I'm trying to think. I definitely like borrowed money from a friend for sure. Like I was like, girl, I'm gonna pay you back in a week. I got you. And it was like $20. But
Mhm,
me and my friend, we used to religiously take a Uber
mhm,
because this is back when Uber had just started. We
mhm,
would do the Uber pools, which was super cheap. So like pay like
mhm.
$12, $6 each to go to a Chili's. We would get a two for 20. So we would have our appetizer, our entree, and our dessert. Okay, twenty
Friend and all
dollars,
that.
and we would go, and it was $10, and that was baby, that was a ritual for us. We were there every week.
Listen,
So,
Chili's hit though in college. Chili, Chipotle, Applebee's,
baby, I
you know,
love
the
it.
whole 9 yards. They
Hmm.
hit. They
Hmm.
hit for sure. So next, what was your favorite homecoming experience this far?
You know what? Honestly, I think homecoming for me started to get
Mm-hmm.
better as an alum because I started
Mm-hmm.
covering homecoming when I graduated. So it was a lot better to be like in the very front, not in the back
Mm-hmm.
with everybody. Because
Yeah.
when I was in school too, I transferred the year after Drake came, and Drake was kind of the pinnacle of homecomings for Howard. That was like a
Mm-hmm.
historic homecoming. And
Oh.
because I came the next year,
Mm-hmm.
everybody like homecoming was just never the same after that. I feel like homecoming did this and then has not been able to like get that same type of energy anymore because it was Drake.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you top Drake, right? And then the
Mm-hmm.
years after that, people were so because people got hurt during the Drake year because everybody tried to run up on the stage, like push, and people got
Oh my
trampled. The
goodness.
years following,
No.
the school was doing a lot. They were making people pay. It just wasn't the same. And so I
Yeah.
don't feel like I got to really enjoy homecoming until I out of school because one, I had the money to pay for all the stuff, and two,
Mm-hmm.
I was able to cover it, so I didn't have to like be in general population. Honestly, so I got to,
VIP.
yeah, talk to the artists, do that with radio there. So I felt like
Yes.
alum homecomings were way better to me.
I love that. So the last question of Spill the Tea is here at The Future is Pretty, we say the future is pretty. But I
Mhm.
want to know for you, the future is what?
Hmm. I had a word that instantly popped in my head, but I don't. I want to think before I say it. That one word sticking to me. The future is bright.
Future is bright.
Mhm.
That explains your future. It's bright.
Very bright. That's all I just know it's gonna be bright. I know it's gonna be
Love
bright. That's what
it.
I,
Yeah. Whatever it is, it's giving bright.
yes, it's giving phosphorescent. Okay.
Period. I love it. So that was so much fun. Thank you so much for interviewing with me and playing the game with me. But now I want to give you a chance to talk your talk. So let everybody know what you're working on, things you have coming up, and most importantly, where can they find you at?
Absolutely. Well, listen, you can follow me on social media at Leah A.Henry on Instagram and Twitter. I had to start my TikTok over. So that's at Leah A.Henry 14. That
Okay.
has been tragic, but we have to start over. So it is what it is. Also, make sure you guys follow my luxury travel brand. Is for plus size people. It's called Plus Paradise. And
Mhm.
that's at Plus Paradise Getaways on Instagram. That's we're having our inaugural trip in Jamaica to Montego Bay. I'm super excited for it. It's for everybody and every body, like body type. So
I
really
love
just
that.
trying to create inclusive spaces for people to feel comfortable and travel. I'm a world traveler and I wanted to bring my plus size people along with me. So that's going to be going down as well. And yeah, you can catch me on Power 1075, 1063 in Columbus, Ohio, and on our app. And you can catch me there live on mycolumbuspower.com from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern. So yeah, a couple places to catch me.
Love it. And what's your show called? People know what the show is called.
Oh, it's called Leah's Lemonade in the Midday.
Yes, I love it. Well, I want to virtually give you your flowers for all your accomplishments. I want to tell you congratulations on making it this far. I'm super duper proud of you for all the things that you've done, all the places you'll go. And the sky's the limit. The price has been up, but now it has skyrocketed. So I want to say thank you so, so much. I appreciate you so much. You are the first, first person to ever be on this show. Yes, girl. So you breaking history over here at the Future is Pretty. Like you already setting the standard. This is your history breaking year.
Amen. Listen,
So I'm
I
speaking it.
received all of that.
Yes. This is a history breaking year. So I want to say
Amen.
thank you so much, girl, and I will talk to you later. Bye.